What's going on, folks? Welcome back. We're back. There's Larry here.
And Anthony here.
What's going on, Ant?
That's a very good question today.
Have you acclimated yourself yet to the Pacific Standard Time?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's good.
Yeah, you know, I acclimated myself just in time to like leave again, but
When you
I think
head
I'm
back?
sticking. No, I think I'm sticking around for a few weeks.
Okay, good. A few weeks. There you go.
Yay!
That's good.
I know it's good to be. It's good to be home.
So, doing anything? You sit down? Did you finally get to relax? I know that last time we recorded, you just planned on doing nothing. You had just flown back, flipped on.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that day. No, you know, work. I work. That's all I do is
We all work.
that. No. So no, not much resting on my end. What about you?
I had work. So we had a little bit of more snow, another nor'easter, if you will. A little less than a nor'easter. The weather
yeah,
here's
lucky
been
you.
wacky. Yeah, like
It's been cataclysmic over here. It's been raining.
oh boy. You know what? I'll take the snow over the rain. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Oh no, thanks. Rain over snow.
Yeah, no, it's like literally in one day it snowed and then it stopped. And 5 seconds later, just a torrential snowstorm. Then it stopped. Sun was out. It was crazy.
Well, yeah, I remember the winter weather in New York, and probably one of the reasons why I'm not there.
I love it. Seasons. I love seasons. That's good.
I have seasons. We have summer light, and then almost summer.
And then fire.
Well, yeah, and then so the fire season's always entertaining.
It always keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, no question. Always keeps you running for your lives.
Have you? And on top of that, have you played any of the games yet? Have you hooked up your disc system? I guess not. You would have mentioned it.
No, I have not. Unfortunately, this was like I said, this was a very busy work week. I had a lot of long hours, and then
Okay.
I had planned on hooking up the disc system and streaming this past weekend, but my back decided that it didn't want me to do anything and went out on me. So
Oof.
I've been in recovery mode for the last few days.
Oh man, oh, feel better, definitely.
Yeah, you gotta love it when old injuries come back to bite you in the ass.
Or just injuries of being old.
Yeah, I'm not up to those yet. And to be honest with you, with all the injuries I already have, I'm not looking forward to the new ones.
I'm already there, and I'm younger than you, so
Well, that's just your fault.
totally my fault. And then on top of and then the end of the week kind of got a little cruddy, but I've just been playing. I've been playing more of the newer games, PlayerUnknown Battleground, things like that. Kind of get my PS4, just kind of working in all the new stuff I got.
Well, yeah, you gotta make that brand new TV work for it, right? You gotta show it off.
Well, I finally got it to work properly. I was home one of the snow days. I was home, watched Spider-Man: Homecoming, Thor: Ragnarok, and then I fell asleep a quarter of the way into Justice League.
Very nice. Well, and rightfully so.
I'll get back to it. But
Don't bother.
with all this, kind of with the new technology I got, with the upgrade to 4K and the new Xbox, new PlayStation, all that. For some reason, after I hooked all that up, all of a sudden I'm like, I kind of want to start collecting some of the old video game systems that I never owned. Epic timing on my part for all this new equipment, and then I just want to hook up vintage systems to it. To me, it doesn't make much of a sense.
Well, no, it doesn't make sense at all because you are you got this like brand new television and now you're thinking about getting old systems. I mean, it's like, well, but then again, I mean, I have all of mine hooked up to my 1080p or 1080i. I don't know what the hell I have. My brand new TV. Let's just say that, my LED TV.
And of course, we have the ongoing competition going on, which I think I am strongly in the lead, and I don't know if that's
so,
good or
and
bad.
I rightfully encourage you to buy any and all old systems that you want this year.
And I would like to tell you that incurring any shipping fees from Los Angeles to New York, I feel should not count towards the overall.
We'll let
contest.
we'll let our shopping challenge official Josh determine that.
Yes, he. I believe he will be
Yeah.
dropping the official rules very soon. And real quick, we do want to give a shout out. Happy birthday! Today is his birthday. Well, Sunday was his birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Josh!
Happy birthday, Josh! Captain Nostalgia. Go check him out. Victims and Villains.
Yeah, but and for those of you who haven't heard about our little shopping challenge, so Larry and I have made a deal that whoever spends the most money on video games this year will buy the other person a Virtual Boy.
Retro video games. Let's get that correct.
Retro video games.
And yes, the winner, the loser buys the winner a Virtual Boy.
Yeah, basically the loser buys the winner, but let's face it, since you're buying a Virtual Boy, we're both losers here.
I can't wait to. I know it. I know I'm going to pull it out. I know I'm going to win this because I know there's going to be something over there in Japan that Anthony just can't wait to get his hands on, and then doesn't realize, and the market does this wicked shift with the yen and the dollar, and completely throws everything off.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's a new strategy that I may be doing to counter that.
Uh-oh.
So
That's not good.
it's called trade-in value.
Wait a minute now. We got to talk to Josh about this whole trade-in value thing. What are you looking to trade in?
No, I'm just saying, I can, I mean, if you trade in games that are worth something, and then you use the trade-in value to buy things, technically you're not spending money.
All right. Well, you know what? Josh is going to need to rule on all this. We will hear from Josh later, not in this episode, but later on, about how all this is going to go down. We're going to figure this out.
Well, I've already figured it out. Trade-ins don't count. Trade-in value does not count.
Okay, good. Works for me. So it doesn't count. So it means that when you buy something with whatever funds it is, whether physical, credit, or store.
It doesn't count towards your spending.
I don't know about that.
Amount. So
Well,
just putting it out there.
Well, I'm going to tell you this much, Ant. Your favorite store then at this point that you have yet to visit will be Game On out here on Long Island, because all they do, and real quick, I just want to throw out to them, on Instagram, Game On Miller Place. Check them out. Got some gorgeous stuff they keep putting up, and these pictures are the reason why I keep going there pretty much each and every week. And feel free to click on the link that I sent you.
All right.
Excuse me.
That's okay.
My throat is killing me.
What the hell am I looking at?
All right. So, and you guys can also click on as well, Instagram.com/GameOnMillerPlace. So this is Sunday at we're recording at 10:52 a.m. just so we know where the time frame is as to where these pictures are. First of all, Ant, right there, that second photo is a Neo Geo Pocket Color.
Oh, look at that.
And there was a Sonic game that came out on it, Sonic Pocket Adventure.
Yep.
Dying to play that, plus the Metal Slug series had some great games on here.
So you're going to buy yourself a Neo Geo Pocket?
I love handhelds.
That's true. So except for the
PSP. I was not crazy about the PSP.
I do like your response to the post, which says, "These posts are making my life and wallet difficult."
Yes. And rightfully so. I'm keeping an eye on that. Now, if you scroll down a little bit, Ant, though, scroll down to like the third row.
Yep.
Now, check out that third picture. Now, I'm going to deviate here for a moment because they don't only sell vintage video games. Some of the old like board games, if you will, or little handhelds.
Yeah.
Like Simon, like an original Simon.
And football, Superstar Football.
Superstar Football. Cool. The Electronic Detective. I feel like I remember that board. What I'll call a board game.
I do not remember that.
It was like a lie detector, that thing.
Nice.
And then if you go down a little bit more, this is where what I kind of want to get your opinion on. All joking aside, taking out the whole contest and everything, now by the time we're talking and by the time I get there, I wouldn't be shocked if this thing's already sold, and not a problem if it is. But they got an Odyssey, and it looks like damn near mint in box.
Yeah, I'm looking at that, and that is unbelievable.
And
absolutely unbelievable.
Also, if you see next to it, which if you click a couple pictures before it, it's got the 6 games for it.
Yeah, I see that. That's
Invasion,
fantastic.
baseball, wipeout, handball, volleyball, and Fun Zoo.
Well, I mean, that's and to be honest with you, if you want to go buy it, by all means, be my guest.
So I'm in big trouble,
if that's the case, that's going to cost a pretty penny.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking about this as far as collection for these older systems. With the new TVs, and I expressed this before, there's only so many hookups to the televisions, and even if I got all clone systems, because like Hyperkin's coming out with their Genesis clone, even though I already have it with the retro trio and the retro bit, they're also coming out with a 2600 clone, and those are all HDMI, but there's only so many inputs. Like my TV, and so far the most I've ever seen on an input TV, but not using splitters, have been 4 HDMI inputs.
Right.
Now, not only that, but now with this new Sony TV I got, there's only 1 component input, where like my older TV had about 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think the newer TVs are now just coming out with 1 because people aren't hooking up to a component anymore.
Which makes sense. Don't get me wrong. Completely makes sense. And it's a lot easier to get a splitter for a component system than, in my opinion, than an HDMI.
Mm.
But what I was thinking was with these old systems, like even if I went out and got like an original Sega CD or an original Master System, the Odyssey, for example, even though that would have to be, I don't even know if I have a coax hookup.
No, you may not be able to hook that up.
I didn't even think of that. That may just be for the old museum here at the More of the Same compound.
Is that what you call your place now?
The Palatial Mansion, as I talk about on the Yin and the Yang podcast. Wink.
Mm-hmm. I would call it more of the same walk-in closet.
Oh, how dare you! I have much more room slightly than a walk-in closet. But that, the oddest, but even so, if I can get systems that do hook up, but even like currently, my PS1, PS2, GameCube, Wii, wherever it is on this planet, because I completely lost it. But these older systems, it dawned on me. Yes, it's cool to have them always hooked up. It's all, like your display's beautiful. You have all the games displayed, all the systems displayed. You turn them on when you need. Awesome. But when you think about it, unlike today's systems that really need to be hooked up all the time, pretty much have a sleep mode, not even off mode. They go to sleep, constantly updating themselves. The older systems don't need that. So I'm like, why am I trying to hook everything up by my television when really I can just almost turn them into plug-and-plays, for lack of a better term. They don't need to be plugged in all the time. They don't need to be hooked up all the time. So if I want to play something, just break it out, plug it in, play it, and then when it's done, put it back. No harm, no foul. Because even with the PS2 and the GameCube, yes, they have internal clocks, and short of, Animal Crossing? You really don't need that internal clock too much.
No, you're right. I mean, they don't need to stay hooked up all the time. It's just, you have to be willing to hook them up and unhook them repeatedly, depending on when you play them. Now, if you don't play them that often, then there's no reason to keep them hooked up. That is true. Most of my systems just, sit on the shelves there and, collect dust, which, so I could unhook them too if I wanted to, but they look so nice in their little display that I like to keep them that way.
I agree with you. I don't have the room. But I agree with you. And if you have the room, do it by all means. But if you don't have that much room, I don't think it's too much of a problem with just going back and forth, because a lot of them you can kind of get away with the same plugs, kind of, sort of, a little bit, not too much, but it's not the end of the world.
No, you're absolutely right. It's not. So you can buy the Odyssey and never play it. Because I probably won't hook up to anything. Yeah,
it's fine. I literally just thought when I was talking. I gotta go check that out on our first
and then
break.
Pick up the Neo Geo Pocket while you're at it too.
That I want. I want to get the 2 Metal Slug games and the Sonic game. I wonder if Tristan and Brian are listening. Now, here's
they're probably already coming up with a bill of sale for you.
Hold on. So now here's what I want to talk about next. And Josh, I know you're listening, so we will need a definitive ruling on this. So just to mention here in a moment, what happens is if you keep scrolling on the page, if you look like a row down from the Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that Genesis game.
Yeah, no. I saw that, and I was going to tell you. So apparently, your store carries NHL, like NHL 13 or NHL 12 or 14, but they're for the Sega Genesis.
Yes, hacks, ROMs, whatever you want to call them.
Right, and they have like the newer rosters and whatnot. So if
Exactly.
you come across like NHL 18, like if they have like this year's or last year's, you can pick that up for me.
Absolutely. Now, here's my question, though.
And we'll put it on your tab.
Wait, hold on. That's technically a newer game. It's an older system, but it's a newer game. Josh, we're going to need a ruling.
That's very true. So that's probably not a retro game.
Because the biggest thing, and just one more time, and forgive me for kind of giving the instructions, but you guys can follow along as well. If you go up to the top, about 2 pictures after the Neo Geo Pocket Color, if you see the Pac-Mans.
Yeah, I saw that.
Those...
There's a Pac-Man 4K.
Yes, those are not. Oh, those are new. Those are homebrews.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them. Once there's Pac-Man Collection for the 7800 and Pac-Man 4K for the 2600, which is hysterical into itself.
I think you need to buy that too.
Well, did you click on the picture? Just look at the first. Look at the.
I see new in stock, Larry,
and that's me. Yeah, exactly. Again, 2 new. I'm definitely picking those up anyway. But 2 new games for old systems, both of which I don't even own right now, and they will play on the original systems.
That's awesome.
So we need a ruling on that, Josh. And then one final thing, Ann, I need your opinion on this one. He also, you don't have to worry about it. It's not a photo, but you see it here. Remember the game, The Adventures of Batman and Robin?
Of course, love that game.
Excellent game, based on the cartoon, which was an amazing cartoon, and the cartoon movie, Mask of the Phantasm, is one of my top 3 animated movies of all time. But do you remember, was there a major difference between the Super Nintendo version and the Genesis version? Not the Sega CD version. Sega CD version, blue.
Yeah, I know. Nothing comes to mind in terms of difference.
Because they got the Genesis version. I had the Super Nintendo growing up, but they have the Genesis version. And
grab it.
Now, I'm going to try it if it's still there. I can't put everything on hold as much as I'd love to.
That's very true.
You still looking for Marvel vs. Capcom 2?
No, I do see the image there. I just don't know if I'm willing to drop the money on it.
So we will talk.
Because I know that one's not cheap.
No, not at all. So yeah, Josh, you have some work to do on your birthday. Even though you're gonna be listening to this a couple days later, you got to let us know about the new homebrews on old systems.
Yep.
And if shipping costs count as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But moving on from this, what else are we talking about today?
I was just flipping. It's funny. I was just the other day, I was just flipping around the internet, just looking up vintage stuff, not necessarily to buy, but just to check out. And there's, I sent this to you also as well. And over at ThinkGeek, they got a lot of cool stuff. Actually, one of the Super NES classics I bought during that whole evening was through ThinkGeek, and that's the one I got my friend for her birthday, which I'm very happy to have gotten her, and I know she enjoys it tremendously. But ThinkGeek does a lot of cool retro because it's vinyl, but they have like a lot of cool vinyl soundtracks for either classic games or even newer games. But what's cool is the vinyl, they're all like designed vinyl. It's not just your regular black vinyl. It's got it's nice enough to just not even really play the album. You kind of want to hang it on a wall. They've had in the Bumblebee color scheme, they had a gorgeous vinyl of the Transformers soundtrack from Generation 1 cartoon. Not the movie. Oh,
that's cool.
The actual cartoon. They have a double album Resident Evil where both the vinyls look like the Bloodshot Eyes. Mm-hmm. But the one I sent Anthony, which if the Retro Gamer fans want to all chip in and get for yours truly, since his birthday is at the end of the month, there's a gorgeous Namco Museum Greatest Hits LP. And first of all, the jacket itself has just some of the most beautiful, bright color artwork of these Namco Museum games. But Ant, tell them about the actual album itself.
Well,
just the way it looks.
Well, I mean, first off, the look of the LP is awesome because it's got all of these different colored pixels on it, which looks really, really cool, and it looks like they're all exploding out. So it's it's definitely a very colorful LP. But then on top of that, to Larry's point, it has the soundtracks for some of the best Namco games ever created, and I'll just run down a list really quickly. So you have obviously the definitive and most iconic one, which is Pac-Man. You have Galaga, New Rally X, Mappy, Xevious, Dig Dug, Bosconian, which I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
I don't know Bosconian. Gapless, Dragon Buster, Tower of Druaga, Sky Kid, The Return of Ishtar, Rolling Thunder, Splatterhouse with the original Splatterhouse.
Yeah.
And that's everything it has. And some of the tracks on it are super short. Like they have like when Pac-Man dies, which is like all of 3 seconds, or when Dig Dug, like the game over for Dig Dug, which is super short. But outside of that, they also have the full in-game music, which is really, really cool. Of course, this would involve you having to own a record player. Which I currently do not own, but I'm assuming, Larry, this would be just a showpiece for you.
You know what? Any of these would be, because I just made the mistake of clicking on the vinyl collection. Link.
Yeah, I was just about to send another version to you, another video game related. Yes,
I just saw that one. Yep.
Yep. They also have an LP for Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Now, this one's more up my alley.
That's a 2-disc collection.
Yeah, it is a 2-record collection.
What I say,
disc? 2 vinyl. You said disc. You said 2 discs.
Oops.
It is a 2 LP collection with all of the songs from Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time performed by the Slavic National Symphony Orchestra.
Very cool. I think they're the ones that are going to do work on the Video Game Live Kickstarter that I'm doing. I think. I could be wrong on that. Maybe they're going to Prague.
Cool. But anyway, the Legend of Zelda one has 22 tracks, which is really, really cool.
All these,
and this would be the one that I would wind up buying if I was going to buy an LP.
And real quick, I mean, they don't have that many, not it's all video game related, but I do want to mention this because if I saw this in stock, I would have bought it in a heartbeat. It's not video game related, but they were for a minute selling the Voyager golden record, the record. Wow. That that NASA, when we sent Voyager up into space, and we just shot it out into space. For those who don't know, I got to imagine there's a young group of people who have no idea about this album. 40 years ago, right? Yeah, it was like the 70s, I think, is when we shot it up into space.
Yes.
With the idea that if this thing comes into contact with, other living beings or whatever, aliens, whatever you want to call them, we included a record album that was printed on gold that had like the history of mankind. It had instructions how to build a machine to listen to the record. And they actually put out a 3 LP box set of what is actually on that album. It was $100. I would have bought this thing in a heartbeat.
I was going to say, I would have bought it the second I saw it on sale. That's just amazing.
And it's got music. I think it's also got music. Yeah, it does. It's got it's got a lot of contemporary stuff and everything, and I think some more recent stuff back then.
Well, back then, I was just going to say, "Johnny Be Good" by Chuck Berry is not exactly a new song today.
So very cool, and it's probably got about 12 billion light years away or something like that. So it's out there.
It's definitely far away.
I'm pretty sure. I like to think it's already been listened to.
It might be, and the response from the aliens were like, "Oh God, we're not going near these people."
Bring us your Chuck Berry.
Exactly.
Which I think is too late.
Big surprise for them. So the LPs on that site are really cool. Just circling back to video games, the Namco Museum and the Legend of Zelda. There was another bit of news I actually found while I was thumbing around the internet this week. And it is an emulator-based news.
Okay.
But a couple of years ago, in 2016, there was a new emulator that came out called the 3D NES. I don't know if you heard about this one.
No.
And what it did was it took the 2D data of an NES game and it rebuilt it into 3D.
Wow, really?
So you can play any 2D NES game in 3D.
Holy cow!
Yeah, and I remember trying it out on Mega Man, and it was a little creepy and uncomfortable because I'm like, okay, this isn't necessarily supposed to be 3D, so it was interesting. But then there were other games that actually kind of look cool in 3D, like if you played like Tetris or Dr. Mario or something like that.
I imagine.
It looked really cool. Well, now they've been the company who did this has been doing a patch for the 3D NES, and now you can play NES games in VR.
Oh, no way!
Yes.
Oh man, how is that even possible?
I do not know how it's possible, but apparently you can download the free demo for it.
Oh yeah,
and it's just I mean, imagine playing like Super Mario in VR.
I mean, I feel like the closest we would have
it's
gotten
gotta be
to
weird.
it was like Super Paper Mario, and that was even just 3D. That must be awesome.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's trippy. I'll give you that much. But
I played the very first VR game I ever played was actually Pac-Man. Pac-Man
oh yeah,
VR.
I remember you telling me that.
That was weird.
Yeah, but playing NES games, and I mean, like you said, you were just talking about like hooking stuff up to your 4K television and how outdated it is. But imagine taking an NES game and doing a VR experience with it.
That's
just
weird.
Yeah, it's just kind of crazy.
Huh. I'm looking at the 3D one right now.
Yeah, the Dr. Mario 3D. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. I mean, all it comes down to is coding, and just being able to sit down and write the code to make these things happen. And you know what? We've got some brilliant people out there that are retro gamers, apparently, that are updating all of our stuff. Absolutely,
very cool, very cool. Good find.
Very good find. Thank you. There was another thing that I was we had talked about this. I think like we had brought it up either last week or the week before, but we started talking about video game mascots.
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And I wanted to do a bit of a deeper dive on those to just to be like, because we know the big ones, like Nintendo, it's Mario, or even if you go by video game series, so like the Super Mario series, obviously you have Mario, Legend of Zelda, you have Link, and so Castlevania's got Simon Belmont, Sonic the Hedgehog is Sonic, obviously. But then I was kind of looking around to see exactly which companies actually, which mascots are considered indicative of the company, or like to our point, like to my point, Nintendo sticks with Mario, right? That's that's their mascot. But what about some of the other companies that create games? So for example, Capcom. Like when I say Capcom, what would their mascot be in your mind?
Honestly, when you say Capcom, the first thing comes to mind is Mega Man.
Right, and that's what I would say too. And for all intents and purposes, yeah, I would agree. Mega Man is definitely Capcom's bread and butter in terms of the games they've created, and I would consider Mega Man their mascot. However, I don't know if you remember, but there was actually a platformer game called Captain Commando. Do you remember Captain Commando?
Ooh, I think I vaguely.
Yeah. Well, if you shorten Captain Commando, you get Capcom.
Oh yeah, look at that.
So it's entirely possible. Now, granted, Captain Commando did come out years after Capcom came into existence, and it was years after Mega Man came out. However, it looked like Capcom was trying to create their own mascot and their own series of games. And the Captain Commando game came out in the arcade in November of 1991, and then several years later wound up on the Super Nintendo, and then later on the PlayStation and the PlayStation 2 and Xbox. They came out, so they came out with a series of games.
I remember this now.
Yeah. So, and then, for other companies, it's interesting because like Data East, remember Data East? Like they came out with like Bad Dudes and stuff like that. Well, based on the information I found, their mascot was a very muscular Russian by the name of Karnov. Do you remember Karnov?
I love Karnov. You actually stole the game right from my hands at last year's Retro Expo.
That is, I did not steal it from your hands. I pointed it out and I grabbed it, and you tried to take it out of my hands, and I said, "No, that's mine." Just like the 8-year-olds we are.
Oh, good old Karnov. Daddy, really? They used him as a who's a whatsy?
As a mascot?
Yeah, interesting.
Apparently. Yeah, it's really interesting when you think about that. Like games that or game companies that come up with mascots. Another good example was LucasArts way back in the day. LucasArts came out with some amazing games. One of my favorites, of course, is Maniac Mansion. Love Maniac Mansion.
You know they made that into a TV show?
No, I did not know
for
that.
like one season. Yeah.
Oh wow, I got to look for that.
Yep.
But Maniac Mansion, I didn't realize that one of the characters in the game was Chuck the Plant. And I don't know if you remember what he looked like, but Chuck the Plant was actually the mascot for LucasArts.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yep. So just thinking about, again, like when you think about games, you think about mascots, but like you never go into companies. Like Microsoft's mascot is considered Master Chief from the Halo series, and rightfully so. Namco is Pac-Man.
Absolutely.
Sega, of course, originally their mascot was Alex Kidd.
Poor Alex.
I know. Who then later, and then later on they came out with Sonic the Hedgehog. The original Sony PlayStation. Can you remember their main mascot?
Wasn't that Crash?
Yeah.
No.
Crash Bandicoot.
Well, yeah. Well, Crash Bandicoot was their first major one, but I think we're going to talk a little later about possibly the first one.
The first one?
Yeah.
So like Sony had that, and then Square Enix. Square is responsible for the Final Fantasy series. They used the Chocobo as their mascot for a while.
Yes.
The Chocobo was that kind of chicken thing that was in the Final Fantasy games. They used to use for races. And then there are a couple of interesting ones. Like there's Hudson Soft, which we both know when I say this, but Bomberman is the mascot for Hudson Soft.
Yep.
TurboGrafx 16. Do you have any idea? Bonk, exactly. But now here's an interesting company there was a company called Irem. I don't know if you know this one. IREM.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they made Super R-Type.
Yeah, they made Super R-Type. But did you know that their mascot, their platform mascot, was a character named Rocky Rodent? I don't know if you know that one.
No. I feel like if I see him, I may recognize him.
Yeah, it was a Super Nintendo game that came out in '93.
Well, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Oh no, it's not. It's not at all what I thought about.
Nope. So, and Rocky Rodent was it was a regular platform game, and his superpower were in his 4 different hairstyles.
Awesome. Why was that not a huge seller?
I don't know. All I know is that the rodent is the game. Just really quickly is Rocky's eating at Pie Face Balboa's restaurant, and he unintentionally eats an envelope with Balboa's protection money. As a result, mobsters take Balboa's daughter, and Balboa asks Rocky to go rescue his daughter, promising him an all-you-can-eat buffet for her return.
Oh, there you go. Listen, that sounds like my go-to.
Right up your alley. But anyway, Rocky Rodent was the mascot for that company. So, it's just interesting how all of these companies actually did try to connect to a character as their mascot, outside of actual games themselves. Obviously game series have their own mascots. But I thought that was just an interesting little dive into mascot history.
Absolutely. That's very interesting.
All right, Larry, it is time for this week's canceled retro game.
Ooh, all right.
We're going back to canceled. I know you particularly like these because they're cool little surprises.
Yeah, you
here
never
and
know
there.
what we could have had.
Exactly. And one of the games that we could have had was actually in development on the much the much reviled Philips CDI system.
Ooh, a sequel to Plumbers Don't Wear Ties?
Yes, that's exactly what it was. But if you do not know this, and I know you know, but for people listening, if you did not know, that Philips actually made a deal with Nintendo to have some of Nintendo's most beloved characters on their system. As a result, we got two very, very terrible Legend of Zelda games, and one very, very awful Mario game called Mario Hotel.
Yes.
But did you know? Not that we're in a Did You Know
Wrong
segment. Yes, I know. But the canceled retro game of the week was another Mario game that was in development on the Philips CDI. They were actually developing 3 different Mario games. Mario Hotel was the only one that was released. However, there was a Mario platform game being developed for the CDI system called Super Mario's Wacky Worlds. And it was supposed to be the sequel to Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo.
Really? A sequel onto a different system?
Yeah, it was going to be a sequel on a different system. And it was originally being developed back in the early 90s by the Philips designers. Oh, I'm sorry. The company's name was Nova Logic. They were the ones that were creating the game. And they basically rushed through just a prototype of the game in 2 weeks to present to Nintendo. Nintendo loved it, and they continued developing it, but of course they wound up stopping because the CDI system went out of, basically went under.
Mm-hmm.
However, and Super Mario Wacky Worlds plays just like Super Mario World because it was a direct sequel, so it was going to be that 16-bit side-scrolling platform. But the game actually went through like all these different worlds, like Egyptian world and things like that. Like they were specifically.
Oh wow!
They around March of 1993, there was a prototype finished of the game. And it included 80% of the game's art, 95% of the design, but only 30% of the code. So the game was definitely not fully completed. However, the prototype was somehow released on emulators. So you can actually play Super Mario's Wacky Worlds on emulator, but based on where they stopped. So when you play it...
Oh, yeah.
When you play it, like... the characters, like the evil characters, don't kill you when you hit them. When you fall into a hole, you just kind of stay there. You don't die. So, like, because the game wasn't completed. It also plays with Super Mario World's music because they never got around to creating new music for it. So, I sent you a link, Larry, so you can actually see some of the gameplay on Super Mario's Wacky Worlds. But we'll post a video link for it this week after this episode drops. But so just so you know, the Philips CDI was in the process of other games, and Super Mario's Wacky Worlds is this week's canceled retro game.
All right, Ant. So I got some stuff for you. You do the segment, a little kind of short segment of Did You Know? But I think we're going to expand that. This is sort of like the movie version of Did You Know?
Oh man, do I need popcorn?
Maybe we need a huge orchestra in the back.
This isn't like a Did You Know list on the Virtual Boy, right?
That would be. Or Did you know? I'm still looking for a Virtual Boy.
Did you know how much the Virtual Boy sucks?
Boo.
These are 1,000 reasons for why it does.
What? It's impossible. It's physically impossible.
I can make that happen.
I want to see a list, and they have to be all different things.
I will make a list.
Well, this list is much shorter, and for a system that everybody loves, 22 things you didn't know about the PlayStation, and this is from Goliath.com. those are pretty
All right,
interesting.
and
to
we're
read.
talking about the original PlayStation,
Yep,
the original
the PS1.
Sony PlayStation. Yes.
PS1. Oh well, PS1 I think it kind of dipped into PS2 a little bit.
Okay.
Actually, no, this is really just PlayStation period. But a lot of it is going to be the original and stuff like that.
Okay.
This came out a few months ago. Excellent article by Nick Steinberg over there on Goliath.com. And we're just going to kind of start from the top and work our way down. So number 22, how Sony's music division's involvement. So Sony, before the PlayStation, we all knew Sony as this. I remember it more music, not even really with the movies at that time, but just more music, all the Sony stereo systems. It was just very music. I think it even started as just really more music heavy. And when Sony came out with the PlayStation, which ended up becoming its own division in Sony, late 1993, to handle the PlayStation brand, this was a joint venture by Sony and its music subsidiary, Sony Music Entertainment Japan. So as much as they were focusing on the hardware, you gotta, if you remember, Ant, how just amazing the music was on a lot of the PlayStation games, and not only that, the PlayStation itself was a wonderful CD player.
Yeah, in fact, I don't remember. I was having a conversation actually with a friend of mine who's a huge into retro gaming, Sean, and he was basically telling me also that the original PlayStation was actually a better CD player than most of the CD players that were coming out at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. When you have that mogul like Sony behind it, if you want to think about it, it was a $200 CD player or whatever it was when it first came out. So they definitely put a lot into it. So you got to, it makes sense that they really jacked up the CD portion of it too. I remember at one point, especially with the PS1, just out of convenience, I started hooking that up through my stereo system to get the music out of, to get the stereo sound. But when my CD portion broke on my stereo, I just used the PlayStation.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it was a viable CD player. And, it's the first time you can do something different on a video game system besides play games.
No, absolutely. So very good with the music. That was number 22. Number 21, the 100 million milestone. Now, this I kind of didn't realize. Only 5 systems have managed to cross the 100 million unit mark with this threshold, but Nintendo has 3 of them, which I didn't realize. 3 of their systems sold over 100 million.
Yeah, now and two of them were handheld.
Yeah,
because Nintendo has that. Nintendo has the market on handheld entertainment. There's no question about it.
And with the other 2 being the PlayStation and the PlayStation 2, the PS1, excuse me, I apologize, selling 102.49 million units, and the PS2 selling 155 million units.
Right, and that is currently the best-selling system of all time. Nothing else has sold as much as the PlayStation 2.
And what's wild about the PS1, especially, and I'm going to quote this article, even if you were to combine the sales of the N64, the GameCube, and the original Xbox, the figure would still be over 20 million units short of the PS1 sales alone.
Yeah, I mean, and the only other system that comes close to the PlayStation 2 apparently was the Nintendo DS, which sold slightly over 154 million.
And that being the most successful system for Nintendo.
Exactly.
Number 20, the PlayStation was originally a Super Nintendo add-on. This everybody knows.
Well, I don't think everybody knows it, but it definitely is something that's been out there because Sony had entered an agreement with Nintendo to create their next system after the NES. Or after the Super Nintendo, and they were just coming up with a simple add-on, so you were going to be able to play CD-based games on the Super Nintendo. And then what wound up happening is that Nintendo backed out of the deal and wound up going with another company and coming into a deal with a little company called Philips, which I just talked about in the last segment for Canceled Game of the Week. And Philips wound up creating their CDI system, which had Nintendo games, Nintendo-based games on it, or Nintendo mascot games. And then after pulling away from Sony, instead of Sony just packing it in, they were like, fine, we'll create a console all by ourselves, which is what initially became the Sony PlayStation. And you know what? How right they were.
Look at this mock-up of a predecessor to what the PlayStation could have looked like.
Yeah, I've seen this image before, especially because it had the Super Nintendo controller attached to it.
Yeah, it's weird seeing the Super Nintendo controller with the Sony PlayStation logo.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, there are a number of these prototypes out there. Like you can find, like, I don't know if you can find them yourself for purchase, but like these do exist in real life, like the actual Sony/Nintendo PlayStation.
Well, there was that one that came out like someone found like a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, number 19. Here we go. This is what I was talking about from the last segment.
Oh yeah, I love this.
Polygon Man, the PlayStation's original mascot, and I kind of remember this thing.
Yeah, so do I, and he's creepy.
Kind of gives you a Max Headroom type feel.
It is. Well, the whole point behind it was to show off that PlayStation can do 3D visuals. So they literally created a face, like kind of a man's face, out of polygons.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
He was also purple.
I like. So again, quoting the article, PlayStation's global head Ken Kutaragi went, quote unquote, absolutely insane when he saw Polygon Man's jagged purple head. And so the character was, quote unquote, taken out into the car park and quietly shot.
Yeah. Well, what I do love about it too, though, is that if you play the Sony PlayStation game Battle Royale,
that's cool.
Polygon Man is actually the final boss in the game.
That is awesome. I didn't know that.
Yep. So Polygon Man did wind up existing on the Sony PlayStation in the game Battle Royale.
Well, PlayStation Battle Royale is their version of Super Smash Brothers.
Yes.
Also, a fun note, you can tell that this was a British article as taken out into the car park. That is a parking lot for those who don't know.
Well, I don't know. I call them car parks all the time. I don't have a British accent.
Number 18. Now, this I mentioned a couple weeks ago when Josh was on the show, and this is where I got the fun fact from. The reason for the black PS1 discs.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it had nothing to do with better quality. It had nothing to do with the laser being able to read it better. It was just hip. It was just cool. That's all it was.
Well, I mean, it was a good it was also a good differentiation between your regular CDs, which just had that standard, silverback. But what's interesting is it would have been cool to see like other colors. Like black is always cool, but like you can do a disc on any color.
PlayStation 2 for a little while was purple.
Yes.
And then they switched to regular.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I did like the purple ones.
Number 17, the PlayStation controller symbols. Now, this I've read about before. There's actually a method to the madness for why there's symbols on the buttons as opposed to letters.
Okay, go for it.
Basically, if you look at it, it's pretty straightforward. X and circle are yes and no. The triangle is supposed to be...
Well, X and O are yes and no in Japanese. Those are the actual Japanese symbols for yes and no.
Oh, I just thought they kind of just... Oh, okay.
Nope.
Oh, those are literally the symbols?
Those are the symbols for yes and no.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Triangle, kind of a perspective or like the player's head. And the square representing a menu, a map, a document of some sort. Now, sometimes, and when you play, sometimes these kind of make sense. Other games just kind of doesn't.
Other games just press triangle, square, or circle when you have to.
Pretty much. Number 16, on the PS3's 6-axis was a late addition. Now, the 6-axis, controller was really great. It was thrown in at the last minute. It was meant to take a feature that Nintendo's Wii... Let me try it again. Nintendo Wii's controller was doing with the motion controller. And I remember when I first bought a PS3, the 6-axis wasn't in those early controllers.
No, it definitely was not. So it was, yeah, it was cool that they tried. They were trying to keep up with the Nintendo Wii, which was doing phenomenal business by coming out with
Absolutely.
the 6-axis.
Number 15, Crash and Spyro's anime makeovers. After a while, Spyro, which also was kind of like their second mascot for a little while behind Crash.
I would agree with that.
They got a they had that hard edge look to them originally, like a regular cartoon, but then they were kind of dialed back to look anime, which I always thought was a little weird.
No, I thought it was perfectly fine. It was just an interesting take. To me, it's kind of like taking Mario and making him Paper Mario. It's just another tweak on the character.
But these anime versions were only in Japan.
Well, because the Japanese love their anime.
We wanted, the idea was the American gamers wanted that attitude look to them, and Japanese like their anime.
That's just ducky.
Number 14, the rarest PlayStation game. And
which I definitely do not own.
Love to get my hands on this. Mm-hmm. It is called Elemental Gearbox Assassin's Case.
Gearbolt.
What did I say? Gearbot?
Gearbox.
I'm thinking of Japan. Elemental Gearbolt Assassin's Case. Never on sale to the public. Only 50 copies were designed, and they included a gold-plated GunCon controller. Now, I've had a GunCon controller, but none of them were gold-plated. There were prizes given at E3 1999, so only a few got their hands on it. So never sold.
Yep.
I've never even seen them really out there.
And not only that, it was the gold on them was apparently very cheaply made.
Yeah.
So if you played with the actual gun in your hands and you started to sweat, the gold would come off.
Yeah, the acidity in our sweat would ruin the gold. To the point where they knew that because enclosed in the game was a letter stating this.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
What I really like is the gold memory card.
Yeah, the gold memory card looks really, really cool. But if you happen to be one of those lucky people who has one of these 50 copies, then you've got yourself a nice little mint there.
Absolutely. Number 13, Sony can be credited with the helping create the indie development scene. I remember a lot of games on the PS1, even the PS2, that just weren't mainstream. They weren't from these big developers. They were from much smaller developers. I've talked about it before. Remember those series of games that were like $10 brand new? They were very straightforward. Chess, bowling, shoot 'em up. Literally, the name of the game was shoot 'em up.
Yeah. Well, basically, those are kind of like the games you buy now on like virtual consoles, exactly. Where indie developers are making them. But yeah, thanks to Sony, people 20 years ago were able to create games and release them on a system.
And what was cool was they did sell a type of PlayStation that you can create your own games. It was called Garage Developer. Well, the term is Garage Developers. It was the Sony's Net Yaroze system. Went for $750. It was actually a black PS1, which looks awesome. And it plugged into your PC, and you were actually able to develop games.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of people who kind of started using the system ended up finding their way into the gaming world. For example, the director of the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicle series, Mitsuru Kamiyama, actually started with one of these systems at home.
Well, and rightfully so. And, that just ties into how, remember that Kickstarter we were pushing about the NES Maker?
Yes.
By developers, so you can create your own NES games and potentially release them onto cartridges. You can copy them down to cartridges. So, it's just awesome that Sony had the foresight to do something like that.
Now, in your trips to Japan and your trips to Super Potato, you ever see this character, Toro, PlayStation's Japanese mascot?
I have.
You have?
Yes, I have.
Okay. In Japan, the Japan only release in 1999 PlayStation is called Doko Demo Isho. So the debut of Toro. So he was kind of, he was a little late into the PlayStation. A small white cat who, with his black cat counterpart Kuro, were so popular that they actually were chosen to be Japanese PlayStation mascots, and the Japanese love their anthropomorphic cats.
Yes, they do. And you know what? I am fully behind it. I support it 100%. And actually, next month when I go to Super Potato, I will be on the lookout for this game.
Like, have you actually seen have you seen this image anyway, just in general when you're over there? Like, is it still?
Well, no, I've seen this character. I didn't know specifically who he was because this game did not come out in the US.
Yeah.
So, but now that I know. I can purchase a copy and play it on my PlayStation.
And much like Polygon Man earlier, Toro was also in PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. Very, very cool. Number 11, this I like. This is cool stuff.
Yes, this is always fun.
PlayStation logo concepts.
Yes.
It wasn't the PlayStation logo we now know and love today. It wasn't a one-shot, someone comes in, bam, done, mic drop, I'm out. They went through a lot of iterations.
I hate to break it to you, but most companies go through a number of iterations before they settle on it.
Absolutely. And,
take it from someone with personal experience.
And we'll post this image on our Instagram page and on our Facebook page. But there is, Ant, tell me, like in these meetings when it comes a logo, is it kind of true where they say, like in the beginning, there is no bad idea?
No, that is correct. There is no bad idea. And furthermore, you usually put the challenge out to a number of people in the company to come up with a logo. And it's not just necessarily the development departments or creative departments. It's just anybody who wants to work out a logo or come up with an idea for a logo or something like that can have at it. I mean, a very popular story that a lot of people know now is that Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog, became one because he wound up becoming a hedgehog based on just a company-wide, I don't know what you want to call it, competition or something like that. Yeah, whatever it was. And then they eventually wound up settling in on Sonic being a hedgehog instead of a rabbit.
Now, when you look at these different logos, it looks like, first of all, they had the font, I guess, was pretty standard. There was a couple little variations on the font. But, I mean, as I'm assuming maybe this order is kind of like what they originally started talking about and then how they just kind of started putting it together. Because when you get near the bottom, it starts to come together to what we know today. But, right. Ant, let me ask you, besides the one that we know and love, which one of these other ones kind of strike your fancy, catch your eye?
It's funny. I'll be honest with you. The only other one that I particularly like, which you would not be able to figure out as place, is the very first one.
Yeah, that one's interesting.
Yeah, I really like that one a lot because it's just straight up PlayStation on the bottom, and then it's got 3 colored discs, red, yellow, and blue.
I kind of like
would that be the component cables? No,
those are just the standard. Those are the standard colors. Those are
those are just the colors.
What do they call primary colors?
Yeah, the primary. Yeah, I just kind of dig that one. I like the way it works.
I kind of like the one in the middle that has the different font than the other ones. Something about it.
Oh, with the lines?
Yeah, it's very simple. I like simple. I just like a very straight, simple logo.
You're lazy.
Well, no, come on. You're in the business. That's what everything's going to nowadays.
Well, you know what? Yeah, well, because sometimes the simpler the better. And that's actually kind of what I liked about the one on the top left. Mm-hmm. It's kind of simple, but at the same time, it's also showcasing the 3D nature of PlayStation. Because if you look at the way the discs are placed, they give you a sense of depth, and it's a little bit it's a little bit more playful. It does look like the letter S if you look at it closely enough.
True, very true.
But it's pretty cool.
Number 10. This I don't really remember. The great memory card shortage of 2002.
Uh-oh.
Apparently games like GTA 3, Metal Gear Solid 2, they were tremendous hits, but apparently they also took a toll on the memory cards. The PlayStation 2 memory cards were only 8 megabytes. Now, back then, that was a lot.
Right.
But for those games, for Final Fantasy X, I think some of these saves may not even fit on the memory card. And this was before the PS2 hard drive.
Yeah, I mean, games were becoming such powerhouses in terms of graphics and everything like that it took a lot to save on, just to save on them. So it's funny that Sony would have a problem with their memory cards. It just really is. Like they made games that were so good and so deep and well designed that their own memory cards couldn't hold them.
Or at least they needed like maybe just one memory card for the whole save.
For the whole game, yeah. And it's funny too. Here's a challenge for you. I don't know if you still have any of your old Sony memory cards.
I do.
But it's kind of fun to plug them in and see what games you have on there that you have save states on. Because when you save on them, you never think of going back to delete anything unless you ran out of room. I just wound up buying more memory cards. So when I go back on my memory cards, I see games that I don't even own anymore because I traded them away. But just like, oh yeah, I remember I own that, and there's some weird games on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 9, the PlayStation 2 design was based on an old Atari prototype.
Ooh,
so
I didn't know.
In 1993, Atari was actually planning their next console, which had the prototype name Falcon 030 Try that again. Falcon 030 Microbox.
Yeah, that's not a good name.
They actually ended up doing away with the Microbox, and they ended up going with the Jaguar. We all know how that ended up.
Badly.
But if you look at the actual design of this Microbox, it really does look like a PlayStation 2.
Well,
I
I'm
should
surprised.
say PlayStation 2 looks like a Microbox.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting that Atari didn't wind up suing Sony for the look, but I'm guessing they didn't have the design of this copywritten in any way.
Probably not, because it was just it's literally a prototype. All it is just the outer shell case, a couple of USB ports, and a regular CD-ROM drive. Like nothing. It wasn't all dolled up or anything. It was literally, as it is. It's a prototype, just thrown together to give you an idea.
Well, I do find it interesting, though, that they were actually considering using USB ports way back in '93.
Yeah, right? That is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and it also looks like it was going to play games off of the good old 3.5-inch floppies.
Oh, yeah, that's not a CD-ROM.
No, that's a floppy drive.
Yeah, that's a floppy drive, excuse me. Huh.
Or, those weren't very floppy, but, it was a disk drive.
Interesting.
Yep.
Number 8, PS2 home development. I remember this. Basically, you were able to install a Linux system on the PS2.
That's kind of awesome.
Short and sweet. Make your own games.
Make your own games. And, you didn't need to buy a special PlayStation to do it. Every PS2 had that capability.
And the Linux package actually included the disk, an Ethernet adapter, which the PS2 didn't actually have yet at the time. It didn't have that Ethernet hookup. The keyboard, a mouse, a VGA adapter, and a 40 gigabyte hard drive. Again, before the PS2 hard drive came out.
Right, and that, and a 40 gigabyte hard drive is huge when you think about it, when you're talking about when the PlayStation 2 came out.
Number 7, the PSP was envisioned as the Walkman of the 21st century, and I can see that.
Oh, boy.
Sony's idea for the PSP, besides gaming on the go, and there was a lot of good games on the PSP. As much as it wasn't my favorite handheld, it had its fair share of great games. The God of War series was fantastic, but those eventually came to the PS3.
Right.
But the music aspect of this thing, it was really to me, and for me, it was the first internet radio I had.
Oh, wow.
And there was a whole section you were able to go to and listen to these internet radio stations. Like, you were so used to regular AM, FM stations. You're like, what is this internet radio? Like, it was a brand new concept. And I remember finding, and I'm not just talking like regular music, I found like an old-time radio channel that had like old radio series. Have Gun Will Travel, The Shadow, a lot of those old, what they call them? Radio plays, I think they call them. It was awesome listening to those. Those were fantastic. And then, you had, special comedy channels that was stand-up only. Or, at that point, you start to discover, genre-only channels. And I used to, it had a sleep function. I'd fall asleep. That was the first thing I'd fall asleep to with music playing, and it would shut down on its own. I used to use that every night.
Wow. I didn't know you loved it so much that you took it to bed with you.
Well, I didn't put it next to me. That's what I do my phone now.
No, that's all right.
I just put it on the nightstand.
You don't have to say anything else. We understand. It's okay.
Number 6, the PS4's messaging feature was inspired by Dark Souls, which is actually coming out on the Switch pretty soon.
Yes, and it's a game I've never played, and I've always wanted to because I heard it's absolutely brutal.
May have to get our shot on it with the PS on the Switch.
I need some more Switch games.
So there was a messaging system in the game Basically, and web messages that you can message other people, obviously. Based on that, PS4 kind of pulled that and used it for their own PS4 messaging system to message gamers to message each other back and forth, kind of like on Xbox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but what's cool about this one was that, Dark Souls, like I said, the difficulty level on this game was absolutely insane. You would just die nonstop. So a way to counteract that was they allowed players to leave messages in the game for other players to find, so that they would have tips on how to defeat the bosses, or where to find treasure, or where there's a trap or something like that, which is really, really cool when you think about it.
Absolutely. Number 5, the secret behind the PS2 boot screen. I didn't know about this, so I'll actually read this. Yeah. So, did you know when the PS2 booted up? Remember all those columns that were on the screen? Just very random columns.
And they would like come at you.
Yeah, it just had that. It was a graphic thing. Just kind of showed what the PlayStation 2 could do. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't as random as you may think. Each tower represents a save game file on the memory card. Did you ever notice that, I guess, depending on, like, sometimes there'd be more columns, sometimes there'd be less columns? I never did.
No, I never noticed that at all. That's so interesting.
So if you start your PS2 with no memory cards, there's no columns. There's no towers. So that was, again, I didn't know that till now.
I want to go look at that now.
Exactly, right? You want to boot up the PS2 and try it. Number 4. Now, this I knew about. I've actually kind of... Did we talk about it later? No, we don't. Number 4. PS3 supercomputers.
This I know too.
The PS3 was such a powerful computer. Forget about a gaming system. It was such a powerful computer that, first of all, when the PS3 came out, I don't know if you remember... Oh, you didn't have a PS3. But...
I still don't have a PS3.
There on the first go-arounds of the PS3s, there was this program. I forgot the name of it, but it was a research program. Basically, what it did, it was doing computing algorithms, computing numbers, something to do like a human genome project. And what you would do is you would kind of quote-unquote donate the power of your PS3 to this worldwide study. It was a legit scientific study. And all you do is leave the PlayStation 3 on, you'd open up this program, and just let it run. And it would do all the calculations, and it would send the data to wherever it was going to. And a lot of people did it, actually. So it was a real easy way for this company or this research group to get all this data through these popular, powerful computers, but to the point where the United States Air Force supercomputer was built. It was called the Condor Cluster. I would love to see this in person. I doubt they have it anymore. It was made up of 1,760 PS3s hooked together.
That's like a gamer's wet dream right there.
I mean, can you imagine what the Air Force was using it for, because the details they have to do as far as with the flights and the drones and everything along those lines.
I'd like to think they were just playing video games.
Playing war games.
Yeah, basically.
In 2010, the Condor Cluster ranked as the 33rd largest supercomputer in the world and was capable of processing billions of pixels a second, making it the fastest computer in the entire U.S. Defense Department at the time, and that is a direct quote from this article.
Wow. And you know what? See, it's not just about playing video games, folks.
Imagine every once in a while someone would just put a disc in one of them. Then all of a sudden they're like, all right, we're getting ready to bomb. Send out Sonic the Hedgehog. What?
Yeah, exactly. It would be kind of funny if, like all of a sudden, like 1,760 systems are all starting to play like a Sonic game or a Crash Bandicoot.
Number 3.
Like, wait, what's this? What is this?
Number 3, and this I remember recognizing right off the bat when it was released. The reason Sony ditched the PS3's Spider-Man font.
So
when the PlayStation 3 first came out, it also came out around the time of the first Spider-Man?
This would be no. This had to be at least which one? PlayStation 2 or 3?
3.
No, they at least had two, if not all three, by that time. It may have
Okay.
been Spider-Man 3 by that time.
So, and when this PS3 came out, I remember looking at it, and I'm like, all right, they are using the Spider-Man font. Spider-Man was a Sony movie. Obviously, the PS3, a Sony system. So they just simply lifted it. And I do remember they were promoting, there was a lot of promotion for the PS3 and Spider-Man at the same time.
Yep.
Mostly with the Blu-ray, because Spider-Man 3, the PlayStation 3 was one of the first, if not the first, home console that had a built-in Blu-ray.
Yes.
And at the time, Blu-ray players were very, very expensive.
Yeah.
They were maybe almost in the thousands, maybe.
Not
some
1,000,
point.
but I think they were like up there, like 800.
They were more than a PS3. So
Right.
the PS3 ended up actually being an inexpensive Blu-ray player.
Right. A lot of people bought the PS3 specifically for that reason.
And I remember Spider-Man was constantly like, hey, buy the Spider-Man Blu-ray and play it on your PS3.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in 2006, PlayStation 3, a bit of backlash due to its expensive... Oh, 2006, that's when it came out. Okay.
Yeah.
Why was I thinking earlier than that? What's wrong with me? Due to the ridiculous price that it was at the time it was released. I bought it for like $600, $700 maybe.
And that was actually the main reason why I never wound up buying it, and and there's no reason for me not to own it, but this is the reason, like, in my brain that's still stuck in. It's like, I refuse to pay that much money for a video game system.
But you got to think of it this way. This is how I justified it, even though literally a week later prices dropped officially. So, figures. But yes, it's an overexpensive gaming system, but it was an underexpensive Blu-ray system. So if you kind of meet it halfway in the middle, then that's where I justified the price back then, because there wasn't really anything else as far as Blu-ray players, and with this new medium that we all started learning about, which were Blu-rays. Mm-hmm. So I didn't mind that price for that part of it. But in 2009 is when they dropped the design, because that also came out with the PS3 Slim model, and then we got that new font that we all know today.
Yay.
Number 2, Ken Kutaragi hated Crash Bandicoot.
Well, and who else doesn't? I never liked the way he looked.
And so now the Godfather of PlayStation, Ken Kutaragi, I think he had, if not was responsible for the PlayStation, just was not happy at all with Crash Bandicoot.
Nope. And apparently from one of his quotes on the game, this game is crap.
Which, you know what? I would agree. I did not like Crash Bandicoot as a platforming game. Gameplay, excuse me. Gameplay.
I'll be honest with you. I never purchased a Crash Bandicoot game, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't. And it all came down to I didn't like the way the character looked.
Yeah, and it wasn't. And the reason why Ken hated it, because he was trying to brand the PlayStation to teens and adults, and Crash
This
kind
was directly a kids game.
Yeah, it was kind of goofy. So
yeah,
and
rightfully so.
Number 1, the PS3. Yes. The PS3 lost billions of dollars.
Yes, it did.
So when the PlayStation 3 was launched in 2006, it sold for $600. I don't know why I thought more. Sold for $600. And Sony, PS2 was just knocking it out of the park, but the PS3, no one wanted to buy it. Reason why you didn't buy it, Ant, because of the high price.
Exactly. Well, and we all know and now we know obviously the reason why it was so expensive, because the Sony team went so far over budget on their research and development. They spent billions just on the console's microprocessor and Blu-ray drives. And to your point, because we all know that back then Blu-ray drives were really expensive. So just including that, into the system threw the price tag off. But what's interesting, as this article points out, is that within the first 2 years of PlayStation 3's life cycle, Sony lost $3.5 billion.
Ouch. They
eventually they made a profit.
Yeah.
Because the system was so successful. But still, considering the fact that you threw away $3.5 billion, that's just insane.
And you got to think that's probably the reason why PS3 only sold half as much as the PS2.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because standard consumers like me, who did not want to drop $600 on a system, and we're ultimately waiting for the price to drop. That's why I wound up becoming an Xbox fan. Because because also at the time, like a lot of games were coming out for both systems. So it was basically like, well, which one do you want? Do you want to play? You can play these games on a $300 system or on a $600 system.
Yeah. And, well, with that is the 22 things that you now know about PlayStation. And that was from Goliath.com. Check it out. And we will be back.
All right, Larry, it's time to celebrate yet another retro birthday.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to one of my favorite games of all time. This is on the Sega Genesis.
Oh, okay.
It was released on March 21st, 1992. So we are going to wish a very happy 26th birthday to the one and only Shining Force.
Oh, wow.
On the Sega Genesis.
My opinion, best RPG ever.
I put that up there with like that one. That one always dukes it out with Link to the Past for me.
Okay.
The two best, probably by far the two best 16-bit RPGs ever made. Yes, Final Fantasy can compete with them as well, but I'm sorry, I gotta go with Shining Force on Link to the Past. So 26 years ago we got Shining Force. So happy birthday to Shining Force. You are 26 years old.
All right, it's time to bring this show getting ready to a close. We're starting to get the game over sign, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's time to go.
It's coming. Real quick, I have a couple of quick announcements to make for I guess personal appearances that we're going to do for free.
I don't know if you can consider them personal appearances if we're not getting paid to do them. So we can just tell people where we're going.
Fair enough. Ant, where are you going to be coming up?
Oh, so next Saturday on the 20, or this coming Saturday, I should say, the 24th, I will be at WonderCon. You can catch me there if you see me in the crowd. No, I will not have a table. And if you know what I look like, then seriously, there is something wrong with you. I'll just be roaming the halls of WonderCon, checking out some really cool stuff. I've got my name in for a couple of panels. I'm waiting to hear back if I get in because they actually do advanced. I
thought you meant you were actually running them.
No.
Oh.
They actually no. As like they do their seats based like you can choose which panels you want to go to, and then they randomly pick who gets to go.
Gotcha.
So I'm waiting to see if I get any tickets to some of the panels. Otherwise, I'll be wandering around the floors buying stuff. Maybe I'll come across some video game vendors. You never know.
Yeah.
And if I do, I'm sure I'll buy a thing or two. Definitely not enough to spend more money than you in our challenge, but we'll take a look at that.
Where is it going to be?
Anaheim.
Okay, fair enough. Somewhere in Anaheim. Look for a bunch of names.
I forgot exactly where it is, okay? Look, I'm tired.
Well, I can tell you also later on this year, actually right before Thanksgiving, the Retro Gamers, for the first time ever, we will do a show live, or record, we figured it out yet, but we will be together in Los Angeles this time. We will actually be attending...
I didn't approve this.
Well, I'm still waiting for the money. We're going to be going to Survivor Series, me and Ant, big wrestling fans. We just bought tickets to Survivor Series, which will be at the Staples Center in Los Angeles on November 18th. That's Sunday before Thanksgiving. And for the first time, really since doing this podcast, I think, I will be taking the flight out to Los Angeles, California.
Yep, it's the only way I can get you to come here.
Wow. That is rude. That is a rude comment and not as much true.
When was the last time you visited?
SummerSlam.
Thank you.
It just so happens that things occur, and it's just an easier flight. Anyway, we're going to Survivor Series, and we're going to do a recording. I would love to try and go live. We'll have more information about this during the summer when we start to plan it a little bit better. There may be some joints opening up out there that maybe we can attend. Maybe not the opening, but to go to do the live broadcast. And,
Very true. Well, we'll see what happens.
You've heard a lot of the Retro Gamer fans, some of our friends out here on the East Coast. So we'll see what the West Coast has to offer. I can guarantee it's going to be something different. I'm not saying better or worse, just something different.
I'm just going to say better.
Dare you. All your friends are out here.
That's what you think.
Well, we are actually, we are terrible people out here.
Yeah, absolutely the worst.
So, more details to follow, but we will be live broadcasting for the first time in Los Angeles together. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to be fun. And we're definitely going to Survivor Series, trying to get the tickets to NXT, Raw, and SmackDown. Not like one of us may or may not know someone who works there, may or may not be able to get us tickets, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we're not getting tickets.
Otherwise, we're going to start to bring this to a close. Remember to check us out everywhere. First of all, merchandising, where the real money of the movie is made. Teechip.com, TEECHIP.com. Literally, during this recording, we added a new product to the VB Sucks website. Now you can get hoodies.
Because everybody wants the hashtag VB Sucks. That is correct.
And I could have sworn there was a hoodie already up there, but it was just a crew neck. So check it out, teechip.com. Do a search for the Retro Gamers. You'll find the Retro Gamers merchandise. You'll find the VB Sucks merchandise.
That's
and again,
right.
We're not getting rich off of this, but it is going to help with storage fees and things along those lines. And
plus,
of course,
you get a cool little Retro Gamers item with your purchase.
Absolutely. So check that out. And of course, we got our various multitude of locations where you can find us. And what do you know? A couple of them.
Sure. You can find us at www.theretrogamers.com. Hey, I got that one right. You can find us on Instagram at @the_retrogamers. And you can find us on Facebook, where we do all our live streaming and post our other crap on facebook.com/retrogamerspodcast.
Beauty.
Yeah. I finally got it down. You can also listen to us on iTunes and Spreaker and Amazon Alexa and TuneIn and
I still don't know if we're on Google Play.
Oh, maybe Google Play.
Maybe. Spreaker?
I said that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Don't tell me iHeartRadio. You can find us on iHeartRadio. We are all over the place, invading your homes in every which way. Especially because if you have an Amazon Alexa, you can tell her to play the Retro Gamers podcast, and it will pop up. That is truly the first sign of the apocalypse.
Same with the Apple HomePod. Siri will do it also.
Yeah, the world is doomed.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up until next week. Ant, enjoy your week. Feel better.
Thank you, sir. You feel better as well.
I will. My wallet hurts, but everything else is doing okay.
Your wallet's going to hurt even more when I get that Virtual Boy.
Heart's a little broken, but that's okay.
Well, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
And with that, we'll catch you all next week right here on the Retro Gamers.